this video, we're going to discuss 10 ways to improve video content on YouTube by making sure people watch for longer. These are tips I've given to many successful creators, but they're valuable even if you're just starting out. Starting with tip number 1, avoid overused phrases like "this video is sponsored by." Whenever people watch our content, they're going to identify pieces of our content that they like and pieces of our content that they don't like as much. One of the types of content pieces that people do not like is an ad read. And whenever we say that this video is sponsored by, and why do we want to do this? Because over time, viewers have learned that this sentence here, "this video is sponsored by," is an indication that we're about to do a lengthy ad segment. And this makes it that whenever that sentence is said, people will already start tuning out. So for that reason, we try to avoid these overused phrases that people would be used so that the viewer doesn't instantly realize, oh, this is an ad segment. And it takes a little longer for them to get into it. Also, one little side trick that you can do here is if you do an ad segment, is you could do "this video is sponsored by," or something similar to that, a variation like, "Hey, we've got a sponsor in this video, it's blah, blah, blah." And then instantly move on with your video. And then once you get into this, now you cross-cut where it's a little bit of ad read, a little bit of main content, a little bit of ad read, a little bit of main content, a little bit of ad read, a little bit of main content. And that way, you're going to lose way less people during those segments, and it makes people watch for longer. Tip number 2 is to add unexpected moments to your content, because viewers enjoy it when a video takes an unforeseen turn, as long as we still deliver on the main promise to what they came for. So let's say that we've got a video spending 24 hours in some weird hotel. Well, everything that we're expecting from this video is to see a weird hotel room, maybe a strange receptionist, etc., etc. Now, I'm not saying that we want to go unexpected and now suddenly we have to go to a supermarket, but we want to take unexpected turns. What's the segments that people expect? Well, they expect everything to be weird. But would they expect, for example, a celebrity to suddenly join you that, hey, a special guest has checked in, and it's like, oh my God, that's person X, and we give that a lot of value? That takes an unexpected turn. And what typically happens is that whenever that unexpected turn starts to happen, or whenever we make something feel like it's unexpected, it wasn't planned, it wasn't in the script, this wasn't the plan of the video, then viewers actually stop tuning out and they start gaining interest because they're like, oh, what's going on? Maybe I need to pay more attention. Tip number 3 is to make sure that the main creator gets the most amount of screen time compared to any other character in the video, especially in content that heavily relies on this creator's likeness. So sometimes people make content where they have themselves, let's call them person A, and then they have a bunch of friends around them, person B right here, person C, person D, and person E. And the problem that we have here is that we give them equal amount of screen time. The editor is like, hey, I need to cover each and every single one of them. But even if we do group videos, we always want to make sure that we are isolating a single creator or a single protagonist. Protagonist is like the main character of your story. So we want to make sure that not everybody gets 20% of screen time, which, 100 divided by 5 is 20% each. But in the end, you want to make sure that the main creator has 50% screen time. Then we have like our important side character, let's say person B, this gets 30% of screen time, because they're very involved with person A. Then we have, here we maybe have 10% screen time, 5% screen time, and 5% screen time. And if we do that one, it still leads up to 100% screen time, but now for the viewer, it's way easier to understand whose story they're supposed to follow. And it makes it so much easier for them to engage with the creator and build some type of relationship. This is really good for increasing watch time, as we're constantly getting immersed in somebody's story, and we're not having to swap between caring about 5 people. We can simply care about a single person. Tip number 4 is to avoid any type of repetition to prevent your retention losses. But repetition is more than just repeating something multiple times. When you think about repetition, I want you to think about different types of repetition. First, I want you to think about visual repetition. Visual repetition is the type of repetition where we see the same thing happen multiple times. So for example, if we have a video where we're going to attempt to shoot an arrow at a target. Well, imagine that I shoot this arrow at this target. Bam! That's one shot right there. or one scene. Now let's say we have the scene again and we just do the exact same thing. We use the same kind of camera angle. Well, now we have visual repetition. So that's the reason why we often want to use multiple camera angles. Why? Because that way we can slowly start to create, and let's say here's the camera right here. Now we want a camera angle with a zoom. Now we want to focus maybe something more wide, or we want to put a type of tracking shot where we use a camera angle here and it just tracks the arrow going this way. It creates less visual repetition and it's really good. It makes people less bored. But there's not just visual repetition, there's also auditory repetition. Auditory repetition happens whenever we use the same track for about 4 minutes. A lot of creators, they're like, hey, I need to put some music on the background. And they don't think about, hey, can I maybe create some variety in this music? Well, this video itself has 10 tips, right? There's no reason for me to use the same track 10 times. That makes it that each tip will start to feel exactly the same, and it gets boring to viewers. So instead, what we should be doing is we should be using different type of tracks, and that creates a lot more variety that viewers enjoy. But it's not just tracks, it's not just music tracks. You could also do this with sound effects. If I have a ba-doom-ts in our video, we want to make sure that we're not repeating the same sound effect multiple times over and over again. Because after a while, this gets annoying and boring, etc. And I'm going to add one more type of repetition, which is a very nuanced way of repetition. But repetition can come also in the form of implied repetition. Let's say I give you a retention tip about visual appeal and tell you things need to visually look good because else it decreases the perceived quality of our content. That's one way of saying, hey, make sure you have good visuals. But if I then after that use an analogy and say, it's like a restaurant. If a restaurant doesn't look good, there's less visual appeal, so people are less likely to come. What I did here is that even though the words I used are completely different, the meaning behind each of the sentences is the exact same. And that's something called implied repetition. Now, implied repetition is just as dangerous as normal repetition. It is just harder to see. Now, before we go to the next tip, I want to address that we've just pre-launched the MVC or Million View Club platform for bigger channels. So if this is something that interests you, make sure to go to millionviewclub.com. Tip number 5, and this one is mostly for the beginning creators, but speak with confidence. One of the things that is super unengaging is when a person is just talking like this and they're trying to present some information. It's not taught with confidence and therefore viewers will lose interest. So next time you speak, make sure you have vocal projection that makes it easier to engage with what you're saying. And I want to quickly draw this idea that a singing teacher has once taught me. And yes, when I was a kid, I used to sing. So they always told me that if you have your face right here, and this is your mouth, I know this looked like Pac-Man, then I want you to think that you are either eating a big apple or you're like a lion. And when you talk like that, right, and I know it sounds weird and looks weird, but when you do that one, and then you project and you kind of think as if you're speaking right over here, like that, then it sounds like you're speaking with confidence rather than you're sounding like this, and it doesn't really sound very confident. This is so much more engaging and people will watch you for longer. Tip number 6 is to stay away from outdated or overused memes. I'm quite sure you've seen this meme before. 10 hours later. It is such an overused meme. And every single time that somebody sees that one, yes, there's a sense of familiarity that may make people like this one or may make it seem like the video is more authentic because it is less polished in the edit. But over time, this doesn't really do much anymore. It's overused. People are getting tired of it. There's a few other ones that I'm going to describe. One is that, let's say something funny happens and you have this old man laughing like, it's just a meme that everybody always uses and it's not that funny. It lost its comedic value because so many people use it over and over and over again. Use newer memes, create new memes, and make things funny, not by reusing the same thing that everybody else is using. And this also comes down to not just memes, but also outdated sound effects, such as the cricket sound effect. And here's tip number 7. Breaking the fourth wall can actually be great. Now, let me first explain to you what breaking the fourth wall is, and then I'm going to tell you how it can actually increase the perceived authenticity. So whenever we break the fourth wall, it's the idea that, let's say we have a produced piece of content, we're talking to the viewer right here, and this feels like a production set. Breaking the fourth wall is allowing the viewer to understand that this is a produced piece of content. For example, let's say we've got a producer right here, and the producer talks to you and says, hey, or the producer laughs to one of your jokes. Well, at that point, instead of looking at the viewer, you're actually looking towards the producer and the viewer sees this one and it's perceived as if the fourth wall is broken. We are acknowledging that we are in a set and that it's a produced piece of content. And this makes the video feel more real because we're not pretending that everything is real. And even if you're educational content, this could make your content be perceived as even better because anybody can sit in a room and talk to the camera. But can anybody sit in a room, have a bunch of producers around them to help them with the information? This is sometimes when we have the camera person say a single line as well, or we make connection with the camera person, we laugh about the same joke. This works for educational content, also works for non-educational content when authenticity is important. Tip number 8 is to use the right amount of blur to evoke curiosity. Too much blur provides too little information, and too little blur provides too much information. So here I'm gonna explain to you something that we found in some research. So when you look at research, we can take curiosity and we can put it in this bell curve right here. In this bell curve, we're going to look at whether curiosity is high or curiosity is low. And then over here, we've got the amount of information that the viewer can use to make a prediction of what you're trying to tease them with. So if there is little information, or too little almost, versus a lot of information. I'm gonna tell my editor to do this one. But editor, I want you to show an image of anything you feel like. And I want you to overly blur it. Well, as you see, with this overly blur, you have no idea what I'm teasing. There's no information. You don't know what I'm trying to tease. You have no idea if it's valuable or not. So we're sitting in this category where things are overly blurred, and that makes curiosity very low because you have no information to even know what you're supposed to be curious about because we have too little information to make a judgment on. Now, let's say that we're slowly removing a little bit of a blur, but not enough where you can start to recognize what it is. And I'm gonna tell you that this picture is something that you've been wanting to see for a very long time. It's related to something you like, some interest. Well, in this case, as we are increasing the amount of information that you have, the curiosity starts to go up. And the more relevant it becomes and the more you care about it, the more curiosity goes higher. It makes you start guessing. You're like, oh, what is this? This may be important information. I want to know what this is. You're trying to utilize some of the information to already start predicting, but you're unable to, and it's really great. Now, let's say that the editor removes even more of the blur and you start to recognize what it is. Well, in this case, now you don't have to guess anymore, so there's no curiosity. There's no reason for you to figure out what it is because you already know. You can easily guess what it is. And I don't know what the editor is going to use in this case, but hopefully it's rewarding enough that you liked what was being teased here, because else it leads to less satisfaction. But the point here is very simple. We want to make sure to find that nice balance where we make the viewers still understand what value there is and give them some information for them to guess. It could be colors, it could be shapes, but not enough to the point where it's too revealing that curiosity goes down again. So use the right amount of blur or anything related to evoking curiosity. Give a little bit of information, but not too much. Tip number 9 is a very difficult one, but this is mostly if you are script writing, it's very easy to work on this one. It is keep sentences simple and short. This makes it easier for viewers to understand what you're trying to say because long sentences reduce overall clarity. If you have a sentence like, I'm gonna go to the store in this video and then we're gonna buy some apples, check them out, see what the price is and compare it to the price of apples of a different store. You see how this was a sentence with the and it creates these long string, and now what happens is once the sentence ends, the viewer reflects on that sentence, try to interpret this one, but you're already talking about the next long sentence. And this could make content feel very jarring and very dense in information, harder to process. Now I'm gonna say, by the way, I break this rule all the time because I don't work with a script, and maybe I should start working with a script. But I really want to educate here, and it's easy to break this rule. But in the optimal way, you should be doing this one. So whenever you're writing your intros, that's a time when you can write the exact words, keep it simple and short. So you should try to break up these sentences into single sentences by themselves. Today, I'm gonna go to the store. At the store, we're gonna buy some apples. Pause. Then we're going to take these apples and compare them to apples from another store. 3 sentences rather than one long string of words. And this brings us to tip number 10. Skip title and logo screens at the beginning of your video to prevent losing viewers early on. This is something that mostly beginning creators do, and once you have a bigger channel, I don't really see this that much. But people tend to make their intro and then have this title screen for about 5 to 10 seconds where they show their logo and then they get into the video. And my question here is, so why? What value is this giving? Branding? Well, when people can see your face, that's enough branding, right? You can do branding through color usage. You can do branding through font selection. You don't have to add a logo screen. It doesn't add any value. And you gotta think, when a new viewer goes on your channel, what do they think? Oh, I'm very interested in this video. Let me just watch. Oh, this is this boring logo screen again. They may start lose interest, and then they continue to watch. This is unnecessary. So let's prevent that one by not using these title and logo screens. If you want to use it, you can use it as a transition, a 2-second transition. There's a channel called Brave Wilderness. They do it that way. It's pretty decent, but don't make it 5 to 10 seconds. If you do it, use it as a transition effect. Don't stay on the logo or title screen. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you learned something new today. Let me know if you like these a lot more. I've got a lot more tips. And also make sure to check out some other videos on the channel. Everything is aimed to help you make better content. Thank you for watching.